being yourself without caring what anyone else thinks. How do you want to express yourself uniquely? The potential to go in a new direction or deepen into a current one. Not wanting to be interfered with. These are all pressures and questions that this cycle of the Human Design Weather for November 5th to 10th, 2025 bring. We're also moving into quarter 4 of the Human Design New Year with this cycle. This is the quarter of mutation, where the frequencies are supporting the process of determining what didn't work and needs to be let go of, what needs to be mutated from what we've learned over the past year, what needs to be transformed. So that'll be an underlying theme for these next 16 cycles, including this one. And we begin with 4 cycles where the Sun-Earth positions are all activating individual traits. Hello there, and welcome to the Human Design Weather, or Not, podcast with me, Margot Fraser. I'm a human design professional certified through the International Human Design School and an intuitive coach. So let's dive right into the weather for this cycle. It all starts on November 5th at 3:11 a.m., going until November 10th at 5:42 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Universal time coordinates, that's starting November 5th at 10:11 a.m., going until 12:42 a.m. on November 11th. Remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the Sun-Earth activations because that's 70% of the conditioning field. We have the Sun moving into gate 1, the gate of self-expression and the creative in the G center, that diamond in the center of the chart that's about our love, identity, and direction in life. Its keynote says, creation as a primal force, the energy potential to manifest inspiration without limit. Individual traits operate in the now and bring through something unique, something mutative. So there are no limitation, no boundaries to the potential that's here. At the same time, it's only potential here, as to actually manifest that potential will require many things to come together. This is the individual perspective, the individual, unique, and creative action that comes out of the direction of gate 2, the receptive, which is our Earth's position. While gate 2 is the most receptive of all gates, the most yin, this trait, gate 1, is the most yang or yang, the most active. The opportunity here is to express yourself uniquely. That is creative, and it's an expression of your direction. There is nothing competitive in this trait. It's not about being the best. There can't be any best. There can't be any comparison when it's unique. The foundation of this trait is that creation is independent of will. True creativity comes through in a pulse when it comes through, and you have no control over when that pulse will come through or if it will come through. You can't will true mutative creativity to happen on demand. It doesn't work that way. And it's going to be incredibly frustrating if you try to do that. You have to have patience. It comes when it comes. This activation sets the direction for the quarter of mutation, this new quarter that we've entered into, and it's the individual creative direction in the now. You may feel more creatively inspired this cycle. When we think of creativity, we tend to think of art and artistic pursuits, but creativity can be expressed in so many ways, from the clothes you wear to the way you arrange furniture, recipes you might try, and so on. Gate 1 is being grounded in the Earth's position. Gate 2, the trait of higher knowing, or the receptive, also in the G center. Its keynote says receptivity as the primal base through which any response is determined. The root of action. Responding inherently and fundamentally means that you're taking action out of some kind of information that you've received. It's the root of action here, but not the action itself. Here it's the receiving. This is the receptive, and setting the direction as an individual for your response, for your potential action. There's the potential with this of knowing your direction. That pulse of knowing could come in. It's the most yin, as I mentioned, the most receptive of all the gates. This is the trait that transforms mutation from a pulse of knowing into a direction. In human design, this is the seat of what we refer to as the driver of yourself. And I don't mean drive or a driver in terms of your mental motivation here, having a drive for something. I mean the driver like the driver of a car, the built-in mechanism within you that moves you along your fractal, your trajectory, your path in life. Gate 2, the receptive, is the direction, but there are other directional gates in the G center that provide perspective. So gate 7 is looking into the future, what's ahead on the road. Gate 13 is looking into the past, into the rearview mirror, so to speak. And gate 1, our sun's position, stays in the present. What's here now? At its root, our direction as a totality is towards harmony and beauty, whatever that is for each of us. There's the potential this cycle for you to receive a pulse of knowing about your unique direction. It could happen that you thought you were going in one direction, but a pulse comes through and you shift to another direction. Now, just a reminder that you need to move anything that comes through or that comes in for you through your own strategy and authority to make sure that it's correct for you. Also, just because you may know your direction, it takes time to actually take action on it. The fuel for your direction comes from gate 14. Gate 2 is electromagnetic in the sacral center. So if you don't have that in your design, you'll just need patience. The 14 will come in for you through the transit field or through moving through the aura of a person that has it. The caution here is being impatient and trying to will yourself to go in a direction out of your ego or the direction that your not self mind thinks you should go in. This is likely to lead to frustration, anger, bitterness, or disappointment. Your direction arises out of a present moment knowing that move you through your strategy and authority. And once again, you have no control over when a pulse will come through. When we look at these sun-earth positions together, they can help you to express yourself and your direction in life in your own unique way. They will bring a pressure to be present. All individual traits carry the potential to drop into melancholy. So gate 2, the receptive, could drop into melancholy that you'll never find your direction, or that you know your direction, but things just aren't moving fast enough. Gate 1, the creative, could drop into melancholy that, I don't have any creative inspiration, or that people just aren't seeing your uniqueness. If that happens, do your best to channel that melancholy into your creative endeavors. Also, listening to music that you're in the mood for could be helpful. The individual gates and traits tend to be quite acoustic. Let's move on to the channels now. When the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't already have it in the world is receiving activation of the related traits and qualities. As it turns out, we have Uranus in gate 8, the gate of contribution in the throat center, that's going to connect with that sun's position, gate 1, the trait of the creative. Together, they create the channel of inspiration, a design of the creative role model that will be here for the full cycle. So this is really going to be the main theme of this cycle. If you have this channel in your design, you're a living example of uniqueness. And if you don't, you have the possibility to learn about and experience this. This channel, it's individual, so it operates in a pulse of creative instinct that, once again, you have no control over. This is something new. It's not the continuous improvement and refinement that you see in the tribal and collective circuitry. It's rooted in the knowing that true creative inspiration, as we mentioned with Gate 1, it's independent of will. You can't just will the creative inspiration on demand. It brings the opportunity to share and contribute your uniqueness out into the world. That uniqueness, that creative of Gate 1 now has an outlet to be manifested into the world. As the design of the creative role model, this is being uniquely you and not caring if anyone else follows you. The caution with this is that there can be fear of rejection of one's unique contribution and of one's uniqueness, and then holding back from expressing your individual contribution as a result. There can also be this blurting out of one's creative expression, of your individual contribution, when it hasn't been invited. In that case, it's likely to be to the wrong people at the wrong time and won't be recognized. Part of the learning within this channel is about the timing of that contribution, so that it is to the right people at the right time, making sure that you're following your strategy and authority. All right, we've got 3 channels being created by transits of the moon this cycle, so they're just short little samples of the frequencies, since the moon only activates a gate or a trait for about 10 or 11 hours, give or take. First up, November 6th, coming in at 8:33 a.m., going until 5:23 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. UTC, that's coming in November 6th at 3:33 p.m., going until the 7th at 12:23 a.m. The moon is moving into Gate 20, the trait of the now in the throat center, connecting with Mars position, Gate 34, the trait of power in the sacral center. Now, we just had Uranus quite recently sitting in that Gate 20 before it moved into the Gate 8 that we just talked about. So we have seen this particular channel, the channel of charisma, quite frequently over the last year. This is a design where thoughts must become deeds. And we actually just had a 6-day period ending on November 4th where this was in the transit field. It's an individual channel that brings the power to take action and be busy. Ideally, it's about being self-absorbed in something that you love. That's what you're being busy with. And when you see someone who's really self-absorbed in what they love, it can be very charismatic, hence the channel of charisma. However, it's Gate 57 in the splenic center, the trait of intuitive insight, that gives the awareness to this channel. So if you don't have that gate in your own chart, there can be a tendency to be busy for the sake of being busy and not necessarily using this energy on what's of value. Next up, we have coming in November 7th at 2:15 a.m., going until 11:11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. UTC coming in November 7th at 9:25 a.m., going until 6:11 p.m. The moon is moving into Gate 35, the trait of change and progress in the throat center, connecting with its electromagnetic, Gate 36, the trait of crisis in the solar plexus emotional center. Together, they create the abstract experiential channel of transitoriness, a design of a jack of all trades. The rule of thumb for the experiential circuitry, or a rule of thumb for it, is to never repeat an experience, but to move from one experience to another, hence the transitoriness. So this is going to bring the pressure to either enter into a new experience or take that next step in going through an experience you're already in, or completing on an experience if you're at that point. In the end, it's about making experience progress. The caution here is that you may end up doing those things, jumping into something, taking that next step, completing on something out of the pressure of this transit, rather than using your own strategy and authority for the correct timing. There could also be a sense then of feeling stuck. with the emotional center having a direct connection up to the throat center, this can be a pushy energy as well, and it can bring some emotional volatility, both ups and downs. All right. Last up, we have coming in November 8th at 2:26 p.m., going until 11:43 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. UTC coming in November 8th at 9:26 p.m., going until November 9th at 6:43 a.m. The moon is moving into gate 52, the trait of inaction and keeping still in the root center, connecting with Mercury's position, gate 9, the trait of focus in the sacral center. Together, they create the channel of concentration, a design of determination. This is part of the logic circuitry and brings the opportunity to sit still, focus, and concentrate on problem solving and finding or mastering a pattern. It's that ability to be able to repeat an experiment, to be able to sit and practice something. So, little window here, if you've got to practice something towards mastery, yep, this is going to be supportive. It's a format channel that brings an intensity to all the other traits in your design. The caution is, if you're unsure of what to concentrate on, it could lead to frustration. That brings us to our long-term transits. The long-term transits are created by the outer planets and the nodes of the moon. They're with us for longer periods of time, so the mind could start to grab onto them as something that's part of you, even when it's not. And then when that transit leaves, it can be quite confusing to the not-self mind. We saw the nodes shift up to the collective gates in the head center last cycle. The nodes are about what we see in the world and what's in our environment. And this is generally going to bring an environment of people sharing with each other. Impersonal sharing is the theme of the collective circuitry. Gate 63 is the trait of doubt. Part of the logic circuitry, bringing the pressure to look at the patterns and the formula in the world, and for having certainty in those patterns. That's what logic is looking for, that reliability. So if there's uncertainty in the patterns that don't seem to be reliable, this is where the doubt's going to come from. Now, it's also common for this doubt to be turned on yourself and to become self-doubt. So just keep an eye out for that. The south node is in gate 64, the trait of confusion, bringing the pressure to make sense of experiences and of life. It's the pressure to put the puzzle pieces together and eliminate the irrelevant data so that there can be that realization, that aha, that making sense. Before the realization, though, there's confusion. This doubt and confusion could bring through really great questions that inspire the rest of the mental logic and abstract circuitry, respectively. Now, these are sitting in line 6, and 6 lines can really transcend the doubt and confusion to trust the process, but they will tend to not live out the trait unless they see that the full process can be completed. 6 lines have a connection with the full circuitry. For gate 63, line 6 is called nostalgia. Well, 6 lines often don't get really great answers to the questions that they've asked over time. And there'll be this remembrance of the time in the past when you might have really got a great answer. Now, on one hand, there could be that ability to recognize past good answers, but stay present to what is. In the detriment, though, there can be this getting caught up in the nostalgia of the past as a place where all the good answers came from and where all the good things lie. Since the detriments tend to play out in the world, you may notice a lot of people sharing about how things were better back at some past time. You know, when are we going to get back to whatever that was, back to some past normal? Instead of really being open to potential new answers and new ways forward. For gate 64, line 6 is called victory. This can bring a confidence in the process that eventually things will make sense. But more likely, we'll see the detriment play out where people are caught up in the confusion. The way that this works is Gate 64 stores all the images. It's very image intensive. It can bring different images into the mind, but they're not in order. So the confusion is, okay, what's relevant, what's not, what needs to be let go of, what do we keep to be able to make sense of this, the process that will go on in the ajna. And in the exaltation, you can kind of just enjoy all these images that are there. In the detriment, it's getting caught up in, you enjoy the images, maybe a little too much. Like I would just rather stay in this. Who needs to make sense of anything? So you stop the process. All right. We're likely then to have an environment of people taking inappropriate action out of trying to get back to some previous time they think is better, or not taking appropriate action out of just being lost in the confusion and not wanting to make sense, rather than using their strategy and authority for decision making. Jupiter, with its quality of expansion, is in Gate 62, the trait of detail in the throat center. This is part of the mental logic circuitry and is the expression of I think or I don't think. It remains in line 5, called metamorphosis, that has a developmental theme that says, when excellence is achieved, action is necessary. This will bring the pressure to delve into the details and only share with others when all those details and facts are in place and organized. The ultimate purpose of the logic circuitry is to better things for humanity, finding those reliable patterns. Tapping into the expansive nature of Jupiter, in this case, can come through delving into the details. There's always a need for any fifth line to manage expectations. And since we'll be tending to project onto each other that, you have all the details, well, that may or may not be true. So the managing of expectations around what details you have or don't have is going to be important while this is present. Otherwise, people may project onto you that you've got all the details around something and you don't. And if you don't manage those expectations and try to deliver on something that you actually haven't thought all the way through, expect to be called out for not having those details and facts in place. This is also the trait of naming things. So if you need to come up with a name for something, this can be a really helpful trait to have in the field. Jupiter will be expanding this quality, and always keep in mind that the mental process and the facts and the details may not actually pan out to be true. Saturn, with its consequences, its constraints, limitations, and discipline, is sitting in Gate 36, the trait of crisis. This is part of the abstract experiential circuitry, and crisis here is not having the experience. It starts the cycle in line 4, called espionage. This is a line where the exaltation is not present in the world. It's a line that can be very, very perceptive of the nature of others. So it can bring that ability to you while this is present in the field. There's always a caveat with this, though, that you may get so caught up in learning about the nature of others that you forget to learn about yourself. And in the end, that can lead to a whole different kind of crisis. There will be the tendency with this present in the field to use experience and knowledge that you do have to deal with having inexperience in whatever that new experience is. And the others that are involved with you, well, that knowledge is not something that you just give away. There's going to have to be some kind of exchange, some kind of payment for it, so to speak, which fits very well with our capitalistic world. It's a fourth line, so there's always a social aspect to it. On the last day of this cycle, November 10th at 1:45 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, Saturn will retrograde back into line 3, called transition, and I'll go through the details of that in the next cycle. Uranus, with its unusualness, its revolutionary nature, and sidetracking qualities, has moved into Gate 8, the trait of contribution. That happened on November 4th. This is part of that individual circuitry in the throat, and its voice says, I know I can contribute, or I know I can't contribute. Well, we've talked a bit about it already because it's in the channel with our sun's position, but let's get into the line now. It's in line 6 called communion. And it does have a developmental theme, something we learn over time that says the certainty which grows out of harmony. The exaltation says the awareness of patterns that ensures correct timing. The gift of knowing when to contribute creatively. As there's a developmental theme, this gift of knowing and trust in that gift is something that you learn over time and through understanding patterns. You then understand the timing of things. So there's a tie-in here with the logic circuitry. Even though it's individual, you can't ignore the patterns. The detriment says doubt, which may engender regret even in the most ideal circumstance. Uncertainty in timing and regret despite circumstance. So even if you have the right contribution to put out into the world, it won't be taken up if the timing is wrong. And if you don't understand the patterns of those you are making the contributions to, you're not going to be able to attune to that correct timing. Neptune continues to sit in gate 25, the trait of universal love, of the spirit of the self and innocence. It's in line 2 called the existentialist, which is really about being here now. It's going to bring that pressure to focus on what is rather than what could be or what has been. This is the place in the now where you find the spirit of yourself. And that in turn, this is part of the centering circuit, can help you to be centered within yourself. Now, in the detriment, the ego gets involved and it's about staying present and being selfless. This is a gate that has a lot to do with selflessness, motiveless action. And when the ego is involved, well, you need to be recognized for your selflessness, which is not really selfless anymore, is it? There's a motive there. All right, Pluto, with its qualities of inner truth and ruling the larger cycles, continues to sit in gate 60, the trait of limitation in the root center, and it's in line 6 called rigidity. It brings a frequency that can help you to accept limitations that you come up against and not try to push through them unless you really can see that the mutation can happen. In the detriment, yeah, you still put the reins on per se, but you're not self-mind. Boy, it does not like being limited and may get a little irritated as a result of that. All right, so overall, incredibly strong individuality in the transit field, particularly with the sun being in a channel for the full cycle with Uranus. In addition, we have the Earth, Neptune, Pluto, Mars, all in individual traits. Venus is going to join the party for individuality on the 8th of November. So this is going to bring really a vibe of let me do my thing my way and don't interfere with me. It's going to have that kind of vibe to it. With the throat and the G center being activated for everyone. What the transit field is bringing is I know I can or I know I can't contribute and express my uniqueness, my spirit, and my individual direction creatively in the now with all the details and facts. So all those G center gates and the throat gates that are involved or coming from the transit field will all have opportunities for expression for everyone in the world. I expect that we'll see a lot of people trying to force their contribution on others with the wrong timing, and then bitterness at not being recognized for their contributions. And there may be a lot of doubt and confusion over what's contributed is actually of value. So if it's you that's making the creative contribution, do your best to be attuned to the patterns of those that you're contributing to so that you can be attuned to that correct timing for your contribution. With that gate 63 sitting in nostalgia, you could butt up against some people who are resistant to your unique contribution and are telling you that I already knew that. Even when that may not be true. So do your best not to take that personally if that occurs. Listen to what they have to say. Maybe it is something that was already known out there, but it might just be the frequency of this nostalgia that's coming through. So you might want to take it with a grain of salt. Remember that for any of these traits, if you don't have them in your own design, it's just pressure from the transit field. You can observe it playing out around you. You can learn from it. But whether there's actually something for you to do with it is according to your own strategy and authority. So don't let this transit field run you. That brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. If you're new to human design and you just like to understand a bit more about the body graph itself, what's the red and the black about, the different geometric shapes and so on, feel free to grab my free Human Design Basics mini course. It's at margotgfraser.com/human-design. And as always great if you can give this a like. It just helps more with exposure. And if you feel called to it, if it's correct for you according to your strategy and authority, feel free to subscribe. All right. This is a cycle where your individual creativity may really shine, reflecting your direction and your individual spirit. You may be really creatively inspired in whatever way that is for you. Just remember that you have no control over the timing of when that creative spark could move through you. And just watch if there's any melancholy that comes in around, there's nothing coming through for me, or there's no way, or no one that recognizes my creativity. All right, accept that you have no control over that. Do your best to be present to what might come through for you. And enjoy the cycle. Have a great one. And may you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.